Take it away.
Thanks. Hi, everybody, and welcome. And so glad you could come to Gallery 5 Schenectady. I want to give a huge shout out to the folks here who've put this together. Is this beautiful? And your presence, your support is so important to the arts, and we so appreciate places like this. So I'm Peggy Becker. I am a photographer. These are pieces plus some others you'll see that are from a series that I call The Edge of Quiet. And they began as a meditation, a personal meditation, myself, on quiet moments in the morning. If you've looked at any of my other work, and you may or may not have, but it's a little more lively, it's colorful, it's expressive. But these went quiet and suggested nuance and whispering to you, calling to your emotion as you see the pictures. All the photographs I'll show you today have come from the shore of Martha's Vineyard over a few years. And the heartbreaking part of it was, as I was doing this series, I thought, well, it is a personal meditation because I get to be out in these beautiful places and I get to enjoy these beautiful scenes. But it occurred to me that with climate change, they may not always be here. And so that my meditation went from a meditation to hopefully a legacy of what we know. And hopefully that they will always be there, although I will say this past fall, I was in Martha's Vineyard to take some more photographs, and I was gonna go to these very same places, except these very same places were desiccated. The grass was withered, the water was gone, and I'm hoping it was just a one-time drought that Martha's Vineyard had in the summer. But anyway, so to continue, as I say, these are very nuanced photos. They're not going to yell at you. As I say, they're going to whisper to you. And I'm going to let you, each of you, decide what it is the emotion that it evokes in you. So for instance, I'll talk about what it evoked in me. As I was looking at this view, and I hope you can see if there aren't too many lights flashing on it, it was just so quiet. But when you wake in the morning to take photographs and realize that I get out about 5 a.m. because if the sun rises at between 6 and 7, you get maybe a half hour's worth of these beautiful, soft photographs. And they change moment by moment. I think over here you can kind of see the land mist going out to sea as it gets brighter. And the movement through the marsh. I will call your attention, which you can't see right at the moment, to a very small little thing that I'm going to show you in a minute. It was a cobweb that's in another photograph that I have on the other side of the show. But anyway, so this was very, very early in the morning, and then I moved to this location where the sun had come up. The mist had kind of moved out to sea. You kind of see it over the back of the dunes, but it brings up the contrast in the photos. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm at that tail end of the cold where all my nose is dripping down and I'm hacking and hacking. So, as I say, I had to move around quite fast on the mornings when I was out because the sun changes so much. And that's the beauty of photography, is watching the sun as it goes and watching the change in the light. Now you don't see it so much in black and white, but you see the tones in the black and white. You can see how much brighter the sky is here than it is up in there. And then the really fun one is at the top. It was just an inlet. I was kind of mucking around in my wellies in the salt marsh, and I noticed this beautiful glare of the sun coming through the mist, and it just made everything pop. And the beautiful seagrass has a very silver effect on it. So between the sun and the silver effect of the grass, it was just glorious. And again, my heart was filled. It was just a personal meditation. but I decided I needed to share it. And in these kinds of photographs, as much goes into the taking of the photograph as the producing of the image on paper. Because when it comes out of the camera, it doesn't always look like this. And so in my memory, I had to go back and say, what did that look like? What did I feel like when I was taking that photograph? And I hope you feel that too. I'm not going to tell you what to feel because you may feel something different than I did. But again, that's what I was feeling when I was working on these. And understand that I'm a very natural photographer. I don't do a lot of photoshopping. I correct the tones. It's a kind of an Ansel Adams approach, if you will, to get the tones right. But it's not to make it look like it wasn't there. It's to make it so that I remember how I felt when I was there. And I felt at peace. I felt the earth was good. And I felt the need to preserve that for my children and for everybody coming after me as well. So that's what these three are. And before we move on to the others, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have on these pieces.
I know you just mentioned Ansel Adams, but who were your influences?
So these particular ones, I wouldn't say that these had any particular influence. I've loved the street photographers, Gary Winogrand. I've loved, I'm sorry, I'm kind of drawing a blank right now, but street photographers were really my influence. And then when I stepped out, we were on vacation, and I saw this, I thought, oh wow, that is so different. And then Ansel Adams became my inspiration just because of the beauty and the care with which he remembered scenes that he took, and the care with which he remembered the tones and how things looked. So that's a great question, though. Thank you.
I have a comment on Ansel Adams, and he took the photograph of Half Dome in Yosemite, and I took a picture of the Half Dome in Yosemite reflecting on Mirror Lake. Mirror Lake is now gone, and I have one of the last pictures of Mirror Lake, and I have it next to Ansel Adams' picture of Half Dome.
And what a blessing for you to have not only the memory of taking it, but that beautiful image that will no longer exist for us. Yeah, and I can't tell you how broken I was when I went. I said, oh, I'm gonna go out there and maybe I'll just sit and maybe I'll just enjoy it. But the grass was crumpled. You can see the waters in here. There was no water. It was all sand. And so, you know, my hope is that next year, with more rain, that is going to abate and that we will come back to this. But if it doesn't, yeah, absolutely, that's my hope as well. Thank you. Craig?
I see you, you have landscapes here, and I know you did some street photography in Havana.
Yes, I did.
What else have you photographed?
So, I've been taking photographs for over, well, it's 60 years now. And I will take anything that comes in front of my lens. I just love to see the world through a lens. And so, as Craig says, yeah, I've traveled quite a lot of places. I've traveled to Africa and Cuba, Argentina, Nicaragua. I've taken cultural photographs, I've taken street photographs, I've taken goofy photographs, I've taken wildlife. I have to confess though, landscape was never my forte, and I've worked years to get to where landscape is something that I can do easily. Well, not easily, but better. Because some of the first ones, I don't even want to pull them out. And so, yeah, I just love everything.
So what makes a bad landscape image?
So if you read about landscape, they'll tell you, well, you need something in the foreground, something in the midground, something in the background. And, you know, I was desperate to find that, but all I was finding was like these big open fields and a few trees in the background. It's like, really? Why can't I come up with a good landscape? And the other thing was, I didn't understand the very tactful way of processing them, even if it was just grass or a rock and then grass and then the background, that you need a little bit of depth in them, and I didn't know how to draw depth. And that's something that I've worked on over the last 2 or 3 years to help me a lot on landscape. Painters do it naturally through the colors and the tones they use, and I didn't know how to pull that out. And so my old landscapes look pretty doggone flat.
In what format is this? Is this a large format camera that you use?
No, these are actually a full frame mirrorless camera. And as I say, keep an eye on this little tiny spot right here, because the beauty of those cameras is they have very nice sensors. And for people like me who aren't quite sure how the images are going to end up, if there's something really cool in there, I can go in and grab it and print it. I would like a medium format. I actually 60 years ago learned on a 4x5, my father's old Graflex, and if you ask me to show you, I still have the burn marks on my finger from where you pop the old light bulbs out. For those of you who don't know what a Graflex is, have you ever seen the old noir photos where there are policemen, you know, and somebody's coming in to take a picture of a dead body, right? Huge. I mean, these cameras were bigger than me, and I'm standing there like this, and my father's saying, okay, well, you put the film in the back, and you put the light bulb in the front, and then you gotta pulp out the light bulb, but make sure it doesn't hit the ground, because it's gonna melt the linoleum. So I've sacrificed my hand to old Graflex cameras, but I remember that every time I see these old movies. Yeah, actually, I'd like to have an 8x10 like Ansel Adams used, right? Beautiful,
Yeah.
stunning photographs you can get.
That's more stuff to take out.
Yeah, well, well, but we have the modern ones that do
That's
some other
great. I mean,
things.
they look beautiful.
Yeah, and so these are printed very specially. I don't do my own printing. I send them to a professional lab, which I work with, and they use fine art paper, which gives it just a luscious, beautiful, soft look.
And you crop it to be.
I crop it to the dimensions that I want, and then they are the ones that are able to make sure my tones are correct, although I've gotten better. And we work together, and then they print them, and I have them, I don't frame either, they're custom framed, because they just deserve it. Any other questions on these before we move on? I'm gonna step backward. There are 2 more that we'll take a look at. Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
So these 2 are also from the same series, The Edge of Quiet, again, evoking what is it you see, very nuanced, whispering to you, calling you in. And the top is Home in the Salt Marsh. Remember, I pointed to the section of that painting over on the other side. That's what it is. It was a cobweb that I didn't even see at first because I was concentrating on the composition and the movement of the land in front of me. And then I looked at the photograph and I went, holy cow, there's a really cool little home in the salt marsh. So for your pleasure, there's a cobweb. The one below is very special to me because I'm a gardener as well as a photographer. And I've always felt that people miss something if you cut too much down too quickly in your garden, because the garden changes from day to day, and by the end you get these wonderful shapes. And so nearby there was an inlet where Queen Anne's lace had was at its final end in the end of the season, and it's all dried out, and yet you can still see the patterns of the lace in the Queen Anne's lace. And what was beautiful about this, pure accident, and you know what, I'd rather be lucky than good. Who doesn't want that? Behind it were these trees that were kind of lit up and moving around as well as kind of a background to that. So I think the whole effect is to give that composition its due, both in the foreground and in the, you know, just in the background. But again, as a gardener, I feel like never give up on your plants, because they will give you beauty, they will give you color, they will give you form, and they keep on giving all winter. I have about a bucket of those right in my cellar that I plan to photograph this winter. And I'll take questions on either of these too. All right. Oh, I don't want to cut you off. I didn't know you had a question.
When do you work in horizontal formats, and when do you work in square?
So it really depends on the photograph. You know, what is it that's calling to be horizontal and what is calling to be square? So all of these were taken on full format. They all started in a 2x3 format, except that when your eye is moving around the photograph, I wanted to make sure that it focused in on the right places. That's a great question though, because most people tell me, you know, you really ought to stick with one format.
Did you just enlarge the cobweb, or was that a separate shot?
No, it was enlarged from
You
that
did
image.
enlarge it.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, the beauty of the modern camera.
You said you didn't see the cobweb when you took the shot?
No, it's from that shot over there.
Okay, oh, okay.
Isn't there something?
I'm gonna have to look at it.
Yeah, I know.
So whoever buys that print over there must buy
They,
this one.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I think maybe the four of them kind of go together. Anyway.
Nice.
All right, well, thank you so much. It's been so great to have you, and again.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thanks.